Let's start with this. Urban Meyer, college coach to pro. Some have done it, but almost none have done it without at least being a position coach in the NFL and understanding the culture of pro football. Urban's a college football guy through and through. From what you see, what do you like? Is there anything that concerns you, Tony?
I love the organization. And I think coming in, and Colin, you're right, you can debate the transition from college to the NFL. How many guys have been successful? Not a lot. But the way I look at it, it's all about leadership. Every great organization in this world has great leadership, and the NFL is no different. And one thing that Urban has proven throughout his career at multiple places, be it college, he's a great leader. And he's not an offensive mastermind. He's not a defensive mastermind. Never been a coordinator at the college level. Even he's just a leader. And I think you see that, as he's come in from day one of him taking charge and saying, this is who we're going to be. This is how we're going to do things. And he has instant credibility because, remember, this is a super young team.
Yeah.
And it's a team that's had no success, outside of 2017 when they went to the AFC Championship for a long time. And so I think it's hungry. And when you are hungry and maybe almost desperate for change and for success, a guy like Urban Meyer comes in, he has instant credibility. I mean, he's done a good job. They're very organized. He obviously has a detailed plan. You can see it the way they practice at camp. So right now, so far, everything's been positive, but they haven't played a game that counts yet either.
Yeah. Now, Trevor Lawrence, he was 6 for 9. Listen, Jags did play some of their starters. Browns did not. We obviously know Cleveland's got an elite roster. Jags don't. What was your interpretation of Trevor Lawrence beginning to end? What did you like? What worries you a little bit or concerns?
I liked his presence. I like how he controlled the situation. The mechanics were sharp. There was no issues of getting in and out of the huddle. He was not rattled. He got hit early. First pass drop back, he had sacked. But from there, he was never like jumpy in the pocket. And what jumps off the page at you, and you see this in camp too, Colin, is he'll make a couple throws every day in practice. You're like, not very many guys can do that. And you saw a couple big time throws. And I think it was not a great first preseason game overall because of what you said, playing their starters, Browns playing their backups, didn't go the Jags' way. But the one thing you wanted to see is you wanted to see Trevor Lawrence perform and make sure that what you saw on the practice field would translate to the game. And I think for the first preseason game, that was accomplished.
By the way, I said this last week, is that Gardner Minshew's numbers are a little like Baker Mayfield. They played the same offense in college. Their NFL numbers are fairly similar. Now, I think Baker's got a better arm. Is Minshew a starter in this league, or do you look at him as a real capable backup?
I think he's a backup. And I think just his skill set, for a team that wants to compete for the playoffs, let's say this, I think he's a backup. Now, could he be a guy that could come in and start a couple years and transition you to the next guy that was going to take you to be a contender? Sure. But his skill set, what he can and cannot do, I think he's a really good NFL backup.
Now, the Tebow story, we don't cover it a lot, but, I said when he got signed, I said, does he understand how hard it is to block in this league? Forget everything else. It's like, it's hard for guys who have been in this league and not gone for 8 years. So I watched all the internet video and everybody's rolling their eyes at him. But in the end, I thought he was more a locker room guy than a a guy that's going to be highly productive. What did you make of his debut?
Well, I mean, you see it in camp too. I mean, he struggles to block, and you can say he was a physical quarterback. That's great. Being a physical quarterback is one thing. Being a physical tight end and playing in the trenches and having to block and move people is something that's much more difficult. And he's just not shown a propensity to do that during training camp. He hasn't, and you wouldn't be surprised. He hasn't never done it in his entire life. And I feel bad that what we're seeing now has been highlighted on the internet and people taking shots at him. But I think the most telling thing for me, Colin, is he was on 0 special teams.
Yeah.
If you want to be a down the line guy who plays tight end, let's say you're the 3rd, 4th tight end on the roster, you better play special teams. You better be good at them. And for him not to be on one special teams, he was the only tight end that did not have any reps on special teams in the first preseason game. I think that's very telling.
You didn't play a long time, but you played with a couple different quarterbacks. And I've said this before, and I asked the pros that come on the show, I say, when it comes to young quarterbacks, you're at practice. I only get to see the games. But there's going to be moments at practice where players in that locker room are going to say, this ain't working, or this is working. Go back to your career. I have somebody connected to the Bears that said Justin was a little lost in the first week or two of practice. And then by the end of it, guys were like, okay, he's doing stuff. He's making pro guys look stupid. What should I look for from a Zach Wilson, a Trey Lance, where I go, that's going to work, or I'm not sure that's going to work in this league?
Well, I mean, take away just the physical attributes, Colin, I think, which we all can see with the big arm and the athletic ability, which most of these young guys coming out have. They can win with their feet. One of the things that I always watch for is how do they handle the pressure in the pocket? Are they able to stand tall? Do their eyes stay up? Can they operate when there's traffic around them? And I think that really early, you can tell if a guy's going to struggle. If his feet start moving, his eyes go down. I start worrying about that because I think that's hard to coach out of a guy.
Right.
Because that's a presence. Tom Brady can't, I think I might be able to beat him in the 40-yard dash, and I can't run to save my life. But there's something about him in the pocket where he is so calm and just subtle movements and able to look down the field and make a play. And you have to win from the pocket if you want long-term success in this league. Not that running isn't valuable and having that threat, which all these young guys can do, very valuable. But I still think it's a game for the quarterback. You have to operate from the pocket. So those young guys, I watch that. And you can't get that in practice. It's hard to tell because they're not getting hit. You can tell the mental side of it. How do they pick up things? What kind of mental capacity do they have? You can see the athletic ability. You can see the arm strength. You can see accuracy. You can judge all that during practice. But the telling sign to me, the difference between the great ones, the good ones, and the guys who just can't do it is how well you operate from the pocket.
Yeah. Zach Wilson was pretty good in the pocket. He had a muddy pocket, and he just stood, and he's not a big guy, and that was the one thing I looked at and thought, you know what? He's confident in there. It's okay. Some guys just don't want to get hit. Some guys are comfortable. Trent Dilfer always says that. A lot of guys just don't like to get hit. I totally see that. Okay, finally, the preseason, it's a lot of the young coaches, culturally, Tony, are like, I'm not playing my starters. McVay, LaFleur. The old guys, Tomlin, Belichick, Reed, Rivera, I thought it was funny this weekend. A lot of the old coaches, they're playing the guys. So where do you land on that? If I gave you an NFL job today, what do you make of the preseason? It feels like McVay's a Pied Piper for the young coaches, and Belichick and Reed are kind of the old guys are like Mike Tomlin. You're going to take some snaps. Bruce Arians, you're going to take some snaps. Where do you land on that?
I land on taking snaps. I think football is a game of repetition. Now, are there certain guys I would be comfortable holding out? Let's use the Rams. Aaron Donald. I don't think he needs reps. I think he's. And by the way, it's not a timing. It's an individual game for him. It's can he beat the guy across from him?
Right.
We know that. But if it's a quarterback, a receiver, I think an offensive lineman, where it's coordination, where you're speaking, you have to communicate, you have to be on the same page. The timing between quarterback and receivers, I get him reps. I don't think you need to give your star running back a bunch of reps. Because how many hits do you want him to take? And guess what? Running is instincts. It's all about instincts. But quarterbacks, receivers, offensive line, I'm playing them. I probably want to give some young my secondary some reps to get a feel for each other. I just think there's only so much practice you can cut out, which we've cut out a lot of it. And then you start cutting out preseason. Well, the product's going to be impacted somewhat, somehow. And I go with the Belichicks and the Reeds and the Tomlins of this world because that's how you get better. Practice. I mean, no one loves practice. No, I hated preseason. I hated training camp. It was miserable. But I wanted to be good, and that's how you get better. Is practicing your craft. Yeah,
I bet that Jacksonville summer practice was a real dream for you down there.
Oh, Colin, I was having this conversation with a guy on the sidelines, and I looked at the practice schedule for the Jaguars and how many padded practices they had. And what you really would consider camp, like we did in the old days, I think we would have had the same amount of practices padded in the first 6 days that they would have all of camp. I mean, we used to go 2 days, full pads, both practices, and the game's changed. And I think as a player, I'd probably like that.
Tony, great seeing you again. Congrats to you, the fam, your business. Good luck to the Jags. We'll be watching every Sunday.
Thanks, Colin.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.